Well, Cesar was a pioneer. He's called, to me, he planted the seed. Others water it, and it grows. There's others, but Cesar planted the seed. Some of those farm workers working in the field with Cesar, some of them became congressmen, like Esteban Torres, who was the ambassador of Hispanic Affairs for Jimmy Carter, who believed in him. Other people, they became leaders, state legislature in California, city councilmen. But Cesar was the one who planted the seed.
Caesar Chavez was born near Yuma, Arizona in 1927. He lived on his family's farm until the Great Depression struck. That is when he became a migrant worker. Because his parents were migrant workers, he moved around a lot during the time, and Cesar attended nearly 30 schools. At the schools that he attended as a child, they didn't allow Spanish speaking. Cesar found that very hard because at home he only spoke Spanish. After he finished middle school, Cesar quit school and worked on the plantation. Working on the plantation was hard because many of the workers didn't have enough money to rent their own house near the plantation. They either slept in their cars or slept in the shack provided for them on the plantation. At the age of 17, Cesar joined the U.S. Navy and fought in World War II. At that time, the Navy was segregated. When he returned home, he married Helen Fabella, and for their honeymoon, they toured all of the missions in California. At the time, Cesar was influenced by the community organizer Fred Ross.
When he was growing up, swimming in the canals of Arizona and San Luis, outside of Tucson, he went to school. And his eldest sister, Rita Chavez, had to sit next to him in the class because he wanted to run away from school. He didn't like school. Too many rules. And but he managed to, study all the way up to the 8th grade. But he used to work in the fields as a young boy. He quit school to work in the fields to support his family. His mother, his father, it was his grandparents, and all the brothers and sisters worked in the fields. He never forgot. Those were bitter years for him when he toiled in those fields, and he never forgot where he came from. So when he went to the Navy, as he evolved, he joined World War II at the end in the Pacific, came back home, wanted to organize farm workers, registered to vote, and he started working in the community with CSO, Community Service Organization, that started in California.
Cesar wanted to make people more aware of the difficult conditions of farm workers based on his early experiences. In 1962, Cesar formed the National Farm Workers Association.
But how many hours a day did an adult work?
An adult work like 12, because they got up real early, right? Yeah, an adult work like 12 hours a day from 5. They'd start 6 in the morning in the fields to 6 at night or 7.
He wanted fair wages and better living and working conditions for the migrant workers.
There, and people didn't have running water. They didn't have inside toilets. They didn't have, some houses didn't have electricity back then. So it was. But for the people back then, they were happy just to have 4 walls and a roof.
He made people more aware of the farm workers' cause by starting nonviolent boycotts and strikes. The groups that backed Cesar were religious groups and church organizations that also supported nonviolence. Caesar Chavez called for a new international boycott of grapes, and millions honored the farm workers. A poll estimated that 17 million citizens participated in the boycott. In 1968, Cesar Chavez went on a fast for 25 days to protest the growing of violence in the organization.
He worked straight. And he said, no, no more. You have to take a break. And they make them, give them good housing. Well, not great housing, but at least, you didn't have to sleep outside or under the truck.
The strikes, boycotts, and negative publicity pressured the corporate grape growers to finally recognize the United Farm Workers Association and accept union contracts. With that recognition came changes to the working conditions Cesar fought so hard to obtain.
Under a roof made out of tin, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, hot. Then the deputies came and brought those chains. And the priest said to Cesar Chavez, we're not criminals, Cesar. Those chains are not for us. And Cesar responded to the priest, yes, Father, they are for us. And we're not criminals. So they put him in chains and arrested them. That was his first arrest. Marching for justice for the forgotten people, the poorest of the poor, farm workers. All they wanted was clean water, a decent place to sleep.
A few months later, the United Farm Workers made history again by winning legislation which outlawed the short-handled hoe and the passage of the ALRA in 1975. But Caesar's work wasn't over. He went on another fast in 1988 that lasted 36 days to protest the pesticides that were being dropped in the fields that was causing poisoning of grape workers and their children. In the 1990s, Caesar helped the United Farm Workers attorneys defend the union in a lawsuit by Bruce Church Incorporated against Salinas, a California-based lettuce and vegetable producer. Church demanded farm workers pay millions of dollars in damages from the United Farm Workers boycott on lettuce. On April 23, 1993, Caesar Chavez sadly and unexpectedly died in his sleep. More than 40,000 people marched behind a plain pine casket at his funeral, honoring a man who dedicated his life for the well-being of others.